Picture this. The year is 1000 AD. It is autumn, and a thin mist hangs over the city. The Japanese call Heian, the capital of peace and tranquility. Darkness still holds. The air smells of wet pine and Kyoto incense, the kind that burns in the nobles' braziers all night and seeps into silk robes and hair alike. This reconstruction was built using artificial intelligence, drawing on historical records, court diaries, and two literary works composed at this very moment in history, The Tale of Genji and The Pillow Book, both written by women of the imperial court. We are standing at the most refined, most luminous instant in all of classical Japanese culture. If you enjoy content that makes history breathe again right before your eyes, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is what keeps these forgotten worlds alive. Heian is home to roughly 100,000 people, but the city leads a double life. There is the Kyoto of the nobles, a universe of color ceremonies and dawn poetry, and the Kyoto of the invisible, a maze of nameless streets where craftsmen and merchants build with their hands the world that aristocrats consume without ever looking down. The city was laid out according to Chinese geomantic principles, a perfect north-south grid of wide avenues, with the grand imperial palace locked at the northern edge like the axis around which everything else orbits. Japan, in this year, is governed not by the young Emperor Ichijo, barely 20, and more divine than political, but by the regent Fujiwara no Michinaga, a man who built his dominion through strategic marriages and quiet maneuvering. He once wrote a poem comparing his own fortune to a full moon, claiming nothing was missing from his life. It was not humility. It was an accurate statement. Step inside a nobleman's residence. At the end of a path lined with red maples, you find the Shinden Zukuri, a cluster of pale timber pavilions linked by covered walkways, arranged around a central garden with a carp pond and an arched footbridge. Everything sits elevated on cypress wood stilts hinoki, with its faint, sweet scent that never fully leaves. There are no Western-style chairs or tables. Life here unfolds at floor level, on finely woven rush mats called tatami, with small bronze braziers pushing a modest warmth against the autumn cold. The outer walls are sliding wooden panels that, when opened entirely, dissolve the boundary between inside and garden, and separating the private chambers from the rest, layered silk curtains called kicho, the true walls of this world. It is behind one of those curtains that Murasaki Shikibu is writing right now, in this very year, what will become the first psychological novel in human history. The day begins with an act that is not romantic, but mandatory. When a nobleman has spent the night with a lady of the court, he must compose a poem before the light comes. Not a casual verse, a carefully weighted one, rich with seasonal imagery and allusions to the classical Chinese canon. A clumsy metaphor, a line that borrows too obviously, a sheet of paper beneath the expected quality. Any of these is enough to damage a reputation permanently. The women of the court read poetry the way European merchants read silk, with precision, with memory, and with no patience for mediocrity. Breakfast follows. Rice porridge called kayu, served in black lacquer bowls, alongside intensely sour pickled plums, umeboshi, and a broth of fermented soybean paste with seaweed. Four-legged animals are forbidden on the aristocratic table. Buddhist precepts run deep here, though the rural poor observe this rule with considerably more flexibility. In this world, clothing is not decoration, it is language. The junihito, literally the 12-layered robe, is the most complex garment system in the history of human dress. A noblewoman builds her outfit by layering up to 12 kimonos of different lengths and weights, so that their edges peek out at sleeve and collar, creating a cascading gradation of color known as kasane no irome. Each combination is codified as strictly as heraldry. Wrong colors in the wrong season is a social error as serious as arriving in armor to a tea ceremony. The full ensemble can weigh over 20 kilograms. Moving inside it with effortless grace is considered a performing art. And the hair never cut. Falling past the floor by a woman's 20s is oiled with camellia, perfumed with incense smoke, and combed each morning for over an hour by 2 or 3 attendants. While the lord attends to duties at the palace, the lady of the house runs everything else with an invisible efficiency. She oversees up to 20 ladies-in-waiting, manages storerooms stocked with imported Chinese silks, and spends her afternoons doing what sits at the true center of her world: reading, composing poetry, playing the 13-stringed zither called the koto. The Heian noblewoman is frequently the most educated person in the household. She reads Chinese classics in the original, composes in both Japanese and Chinese, and knows the 31 syllables of the waka form as naturally as she knows her own name. There is a deep irony here. The same system that confines these women behind curtains also grants them time, silence, and paper enough to produce the most sophisticated literature of the medieval world. What reaches this perfumed house from the outside world? The deepest dyes in the kimono fabric, indigo blue, scarlet benny, travel weeks overland from Tang Dynasty workshops on the continent. The most prized incense, agarwood from the southern islands, arrives aboard merchant ships docking at Hakata Bay. And then there is paper. Japan has developed washi handmade Japanese paper into the most refined writing surface on earth, so far superior to European parchment of the same era that it allows a delicacy of brushwork simply impossible on any other material. Without cheap, beautiful, abundant paper, there is no tale of Genji. Paper is the invisible technology on which this entire civilization rests. Dinner arrives as the light fails. Perfectly steamed white rice, clear suimono broth with clams from Lake Biwa, grilled river fish, and on special occasions, mochi glutinous rice pounded into a smooth white paste, served with sweet red bean filling, warm sake in small ceramic cups. When the meal is done, music fills the pavilion. The biwa, a 4-stringed lute brought from China, played in modal scales that feel neither major nor minor, but something older and entirely their own. The ladies play ego by lamplight or recite passages from the Manyoshu, the great poetry anthology compiled 3 centuries earlier. Dreams, here, are not dismissed at waking. They are interpreted the following morning using Chinese divination texts. In the Heian world, an unread dream is a warning thrown away. Full night over Heiankyo. From the temple of Toji to the south comes the low resonant toll of the Bansho bell, the sound that marks the boundary between the visible world and the one that exists just beyond it. The Lord lies beneath a silk-stuffed quilt, behind curtains that hold the warmth of his body. Before sleep, he murmurs the Nenbutsu, Namu Amida Butsu, 6 syllables that are at once a prayer, a shield against the dark, and a quiet bet that the morning will come. Somewhere in the house, by the last lamp still burning, a woman's hand moves across paper the color of moonlit water. She is writing the story of a prince who was never quite real. This world will not last. In 2 centuries, the samurai will replace the poets at the center of Japanese history, and elegance will yield to the sword. But tonight, in the year when the first great novel of the human race is being written sentence by sentence behind a silk curtain, Heiankyo breathes in peace, in incense, and in the light of a full moon. And that moment, that precise, fragile, irreplaceable moment, belongs now to the memory of the world forever. If this journey moved you, subscribe and share the video. Tell us in the comments, which forgotten world do you want us to reconstruct next? Baghdad in 850 AD, Alexandria in 200 BC. The markets of Tenochtitlan? Your vote picks the next destination.